In recent years, drones have evolved from hobbyist gadgets into powerful tools shaping the future of defense, commerce, logistics, surveillance, and public safety. What was once seen as niche military technology is now a central pillar of U.S. national strategy, both in terms of economic competitiveness and security preparedness. As of September 2025, the United States is undergoing a significant transformation in how it regulates, manufactures, and deploys drones across sectors. From the battlefield to the factory floor, unmanned aerial systems, UAS, are not just proliferating, they are rapidly redefining airspace dynamics and geopolitical leverage. Much of this momentum is being driven by a combination of international pressure, technological advancement, and domestic political urgency. Geopolitical competition with China and Israel, growing concerns over cybersecurity and supply chain vulnerabilities, and the rapidly escalating demand for autonomous systems in warfare have all converged to push drones to the forefront of national policy debates. In response, the U.S. government is actively reshaping drone import rules, enhancing military investment in next-generation unmanned systems, and aggressively pursuing domestic alternatives to foreign-made drone technologies. The drone ecosystem in the United States today sits at the intersection of defense innovation, commercial potential, and strategic rivalry. Federal agencies such as the Department of Defense, DoD, Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, are more coordinated than ever in establishing clear boundaries between secure, U.S.-vetted drone systems and those deemed risky due to foreign influence, primarily Chinese manufacturers. This shift has major implications not just for military readiness, but for industries ranging from agriculture and construction to public safety and logistics. Meanwhile, the private sector is racing to meet demand. American companies are scaling production of critical components like batteries, sensors, and navigation software, while policymakers work to enable more aggressive drone exports to key allies. The integration of artificial intelligence into drones, particularly in military contexts, is also accelerating, further blurring the lines between human decision-making and machine autonomy. In this article, we examine 10 of the most recent and impactful developments in the U.S. drone landscape as of September 6, 2025. From policy shifts in military contracts to technological breakthroughs and regulatory changes, these events offer a window into the evolving role of drones in America's national security and industrial strategy. 1. U.S. announces plans to restrict imports of Chinese drones and heavy-duty vehicles. In a landmark policy shift announced in late August 2025, the U.S. federal government revealed its intention to impose strict new limits on the import of Chinese-made drones and heavy-duty vehicles. Citing national security concerns, economic independence, and the need to protect critical infrastructure from foreign surveillance and potential sabotage, the move marks a pivotal moment in the United States' technological decoupling from China. The new restrictions, expected to be finalized and formally implemented by the end of September 2025, target a wide swath of unmanned aerial systems, UAS manufactured by Chinese companies, including commercial-grade drones used in industries such as agriculture, real estate, filmmaking, and emergency services. Prominent among the affected manufacturers is DJI, which currently holds a dominant share, estimated at over 70% of the global commercial drone market. While DJI has long maintained that its products are safe and pose no security risks, U.S. officials remain unconvinced, pointing to past allegations of data sharing, backdoor vulnerabilities, and ties to the Chinese Communist Party. In addition to drones, the proposed restrictions also extend to certain categories of heavy-duty vehicles, particularly those equipped with advanced telematics or autonomous navigation systems sourced from Chinese firms. Though not as widely publicized, these vehicle imports are also seen as potential vectors for cyber intrusion, especially when deployed in sensitive infrastructure projects or defense-related logistics chains. National security first. The move aligns closely with long-standing warnings from the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security about the risks posed by foreign-made drones. In prior reports, these agencies have highlighted the danger of unauthorized data transmission, live video feeds being accessed remotely, and mission-critical information being intercepted or stored in overseas servers. These vulnerabilities have become even more pressing in light of recent geopolitical tensions and China's aggressive posture in cyberspace and global technology influence. Pentagon officials have stressed that while cost-effective, many of the Chinese drones currently in use by U.S. agencies and companies have not undergone rigorous national security vetting. This reality has spurred a broader push within federal procurement offices to turn to domestic alternatives and trusted foreign allies. Industry disruption and pushback. Not surprisingly, the announcement has triggered significant concern across various industries, many of which rely heavily on affordable Chinese-made drones. Emergency response teams, public works departments, and construction firms warned that the restrictions could delay operations and increase costs dramatically. Small businesses in particular may struggle to afford domestically made alternatives, which can cost significantly more than their Chinese counterparts. Industry coalitions and trade associations have begun lobbying for exemptions or transitional allowances, arguing that an abrupt shift away from Chinese technology could disrupt ongoing projects and strain public services. Some lawmakers are also advocating for a phased implementation to minimize economic fallout, while encouraging the growth of the domestic drone sector. An economic strategy as much as a security move. Beyond security, the import restrictions are being framed as part of a broader strategy to revitalize American manufacturing and reduce dependence on foreign supply chains, especially in areas deemed vital to national resilience. By creating a regulatory environment that discourages the use of Chinese drones, the U.S. hopes to create a more robust and self-sustaining domestic drone ecosystem. In parallel, federal funding is being directed toward research and development, public-private partnerships, and incentive programs for U.S.-based drone manufacturers. The Pentagon's Blue UAS program, which certifies secure drone platforms for government use, is expected to expand in scope and scale in response to these import restrictions. Looking ahead, the Biden administration has signaled that this move is just one part of a larger technology strategy aimed at reinforcing American sovereignty in the digital and autonomous age. Additional rules targeting AI chips, sensors, and communication systems may follow. While the transition may be rocky for some sectors, U.S. policymakers appear resolute in their position. The benefits of economic independence and digital security far outweigh the short-term disruptions posed by reducing reliance on Chinese drones and vehicles. 2. U.S. Navy accelerates development of carrier-based loyal wingman drones. As global tensions rise and the need for technological superiority intensifies, the U.S. Navy is fast-tracking the development of a new class of autonomous, carrier-based drones known as loyal wingman systems. These drones, designed to accompany and support piloted fighter jets during missions, represent a transformative leap in naval aviation, one that blends artificial intelligence, robotics, and aerial combat into a single cohesive battlefield advantage. The U.S. Navy's commitment to the loyal wingman concept became more evident in August 2025, when it awarded a series of multi-million-dollar contracts to leading aerospace and defense companies, including Boeing, Kratos Defense, and Northrop Grumman. These contracts aim to accelerate the prototyping and testing of advanced drone systems that can operate from aircraft carriers, execute complex missions independently or alongside human pilots, and provide support in both offensive and defensive roles. The loyal wingman concept. The term loyal wingman refers to semi-autonomous or fully autonomous drones that are capable of flying in formation with manned fighter aircraft, carrying out tasks such as electronic warfare, intelligence gathering, jamming enemy radar, targeting ground assets, or even engaging in dogfights. These drones are intended to extend the reach, survivability, and effectiveness of manned aircraft while reducing risk to human pilots. Unlike traditional drones that require remote piloting from a control center, loyal wingman systems use advanced onboard AI to make split-second decisions based on mission parameters, real-time data, and changing conditions. Human operators can provide high-level guidance or override commands, but much of the tactical execution is automated, an approach known as human on the loop rather than human in the loop. The Navy is particularly focused on adapting these systems for carrier operations, which present unique challenges such as catapult launches, arrested landings, and limited deck space. Developing drones that can safely and reliably operate under these conditions is a key milestone in the project's progress. Strategic significance in Indo-Pacific tensions. The acceleration of loyal wingman development is not occurring in a vacuum. It comes amid growing tensions in the Indo-Pacific region, particularly in the South China Sea, where the U.S. seeks to maintain freedom of navigation and deter Chinese militarization of contested territories. Autonomous drones offer the U.S. military a cost-effective and scalable way to project power and conduct surveillance in high-risk environments, where sending human pilots could be dangerous or diplomatically sensitive. Moreover, these drones can be deployed in swarms, saturating enemy defenses and overwhelming systems that are designed to detect or intercept conventional aircraft. Their ability to fly lower, longer, and with fewer logistical demands makes them ideal for modern warfare scenarios that require both persistence and adaptability. Partnerships and innovation. In addition to traditional defense contractors, the Navy is working with a range of tech startups and research institutions to push the boundaries of drone autonomy, communications, and machine learning. Open architecture software, modular payload systems, and secure satellite communication links are all central to the loyal wingman's evolving design. The Navy's efforts are also tied to the broader Department of Defense AI strategy, which emphasizes ethical AI, reliability in combat environments, and interoperability with existing platforms. Rigorous testing, simulation environments, and digital twins are being used to refine drone behaviors before they ever take to the sky. Challenges and ethical considerations. Despite its promise, the Loyal Wingman program faces several hurdles. Autonomy and lethal decision-making remains a deeply controversial issue. Pentagon policy currently mandates human oversight of any decision to use lethal force, but as these systems become more advanced, distinguishing between human and machine judgment will grow increasingly complex. There are also technical challenges related to cybersecurity, coordination in contested airspace, and ensuring interoperability with existing naval platforms. The Navy is aware of these concerns and is building safeguards and fallback protocols into every level of the program. Conclusion. The U.S. Navy's push to develop carrier-based Loyal Wingman drones marks a significant step in redefining air power and naval warfare. By combining autonomy, artificial intelligence, and carrier mobility, these drones could dramatically reshape the way the U.S. conducts future missions. As adversaries advance their own autonomous capabilities, the speed and effectiveness with which the U.S. brings Loyal Wingman systems into operational use may determine its ability to maintain air superiority in the decades to come. 3. Trump administration reinterprets 38-year-old treaty to boost drone exports. In a bold move aimed at expanding the United States' share of the global defense technology market, the Trump administration has revisited and reinterpreted a decades-old international arms control agreement to allow for broader export of American-made military drones. This strategic policy shift, focused particularly on aircraft such as the MQ-9 Reaper, centers on the reinterpretation of the Missile Technology Control Regime, MTCR, a multilateral treaty established in 1987 to limit the spread of unmanned delivery systems capable of carrying weapons of mass destruction. The MTCR, which has long placed restrictions on the export of drones capable of flying more than 300 kilometers while carrying a payload of at least 500 kilograms, has historically been interpreted to include long-range, armed, unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, like the MQ-9 Reaper. This classification has limited U.S. defense contractors from selling such drones to close allies, including countries with strong security ties to the United States. However, as geopolitical threats have evolved and other nations, most notably China and Israel, have surged ahead in exporting high-end UAVs to nations around the world, the Trump administration argued that the existing interpretation of the MTCR was outdated and counterproductive. In 2020, initial groundwork was laid for a policy shift. That effort has now culminated in 2025 with a full reinterpretation of how certain drone categories are classified under the treaty. What's changed? Under the new interpretation, drones like the MQ-9 Reaper, which are traditionally used for surveillance and precision strike missions, are no longer classified as Category 1 systems under MTCR rules. Instead, they are now seen as Category 2 systems, making it easier for U.S. companies to sell them to vetted foreign governments without the same high-level political restrictions and bureaucratic red tape. This change does not signal a withdrawal from the MTCR itself. Rather, it reflects a new legal and policy stance that seeks to modernize how treaty language applies to rapidly evolving technology. The Trump administration framed this move as both an economic opportunity and a strategic necessity, enabling allies to purchase advanced systems while preventing adversaries from filling the vacuum left by U.S. export hesitancy. Winners and watchdogs. The biggest winners from this change are major U.S. drone manufacturers such as General Atomics, which produces the MQ-9 Reaper, and Northrop Grumman, among others. Already, several nations, including India, the United Arab Emirates, and several NATO members, are expressing renewed interest in purchasing U.S. combat drones now that legal barriers have been eased. However, the reinterpretation has drawn criticism from non-proliferation experts and arms control advocates. They argue that weakening MTCR controls risks sparking a global drone arms race and may set a precedent that undermines other international agreements. Critics also question whether some recipient nations will use these advanced drones responsibly or in accordance with international humanitarian law. Strategic implications. The broader strategic aim behind the policy shift is to counter China's aggressive export of its own armed drones, including the Wingman and CH-series UAVs, to countries across Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. U.S. officials contend that by restricting drone exports, America was effectively ceding influence and letting authoritarian regimes shape drone warfare norms. Now, with the new interpretation of the MTCR in place, the U.S. hopes to reassert leadership in this critical defense domain, strengthening alliances, enhancing interoperability, and ensuring that drone proliferation occurs under a framework of transparency and accountability led by democratic nations. 4. Drone issues feature heavily in national tariff and regulatory discussions. As the U.S. government continues to recalibrate its stance on global trade, national security, and technological sovereignty, drones have emerged as a recurring focal point in tariff debates and regulatory policymaking. Once relegated to specialized military procurement discussions, unmanned aerial systems, UAS, are now at the center of broader national economic strategy, drawing attention from lawmakers, trade officials, and regulatory agencies alike. In recent months leading up to September 2025, drones have been prominently featured in congressional hearings, Department of Commerce briefings, and Federal Trade Commission investigations. Much of this attention stems from the growing concern about foreign control over critical technology sectors, and drones, with their increasing role in agriculture, logistics, public safety, and defense, now qualify as just that. Drones as a strategic commodity. At the heart of the discussion is the question, should drones be treated as consumer products or as strategic assets? This distinction has significant implications. If treated as consumer-grade electronics, drones fall under general trade and tariff rules that prioritize cost efficiency and market competition. However, if reclassified as sensitive or strategic technologies, like semiconductors, AI processors, or telecommunications equipment, they become subject to stricter import controls, higher tariffs, and tighter oversight. Recent regulatory discussions have leaned heavily toward the latter view. The rise of Chinese dominance in the drone market, particularly through companies like DJI, has intensified fears that these devices could be used for surveillance or data harvesting, either inadvertently or through malicious design. In response, lawmakers are pushing for enhanced inspection of imported drones and even the implementation of a national security tariff category for unmanned systems. Legislative and regulatory moves. Several bipartisan bills currently under discussion in both the House and Senate aim to redefine how drones are regulated and taxed when entering the U.S. market. One proposed bill would classify any drone made by companies with ties to foreign adversaries as high-risk technology, triggering higher tariffs and mandatory security reviews. Another bill seeks to provide tax credits and federal grants for U.S.-based drone manufacturers to offset the economic impact of competition with low-cost imports. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, which historically focused on drone flight safety and airspace integration, is now collaborating with the Departments of Homeland Security and Commerce to evaluate the broader implications of drone technology. Their joint assessments are expected to influence future rulemaking related to drone registration, data handling, and supply chain transparency. Industry stakeholders weigh in. Industry voices have been split. While many U.S. drone startups and manufacturers welcome the increased scrutiny on foreign competitors, arguing it levels the playing field, other businesses and trade groups caution against overregulation. Agricultural associations, real estate firms, and public safety agencies have warned that excessive tariffs and red tape could drive up costs, reduce access to useful tools, and ultimately slow innovation. These competing interests have led to a surge in lobbying efforts on Capitol Hill, with tech companies, defense contractors, and public service agencies all pushing for nuanced legislation that balances security with functionality. Looking ahead, as federal officials work toward a more cohesive drone policy, it's clear that unmanned systems are no longer just niche gadgets. They're economic, political, and security instruments with far-reaching consequences. How drones are treated in the next round of tariffs and regulations may determine not only who dominates the skies commercially, but also who controls the underlying data and infrastructure that these aircraft increasingly manage. 5. K-1000 ULE long-range drone, added to Pentagon's Blue UAS list. In a significant win for domestic drone manufacturing and federal security assurance, the K-1000 ULE, a new long-range unmanned aerial system, UAS, was officially added to the Pentagon's Blue UAS cleared list in early September 2025. This designation certifies that the drone has passed rigorous security, performance, and interoperability standards, making it eligible for procurement by federal agencies, including the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, and other government entities. The addition of the K-1000 ULE to the Blue UAS list marks a critical step in the U.S. government's ongoing effort to replace foreign-made drones, especially those from Chinese manufacturers, with secure American-designed alternatives. As the demand for trusted and autonomous systems grows, particularly in defense and critical infrastructure surveillance, this certification provides both a technological milestone and a political message. What is the K-1000 ULE? Manufactured by a rising U.S.-based aerospace firm specializing in secure long-endurance platforms, the K-1000 ULE, ultra-long endurance drone, is built for extended missions requiring high-altitude flight, persistent surveillance, and wide-area communications relay. It boasts a flight endurance of over 24 hours, operates at altitudes exceeding 30,000 feet, and features modular payload options, including electro-optical/infrared sensors, LiDAR systems, and SIGINT, signals intelligence, packages. The drone's secure communications suite includes encrypted satellite uplinks and proprietary anti-jamming technologies, making it suitable for military applications, border surveillance, and intelligence gathering missions. Additionally, the K-1000 ULE's lightweight airframe and efficient propulsion system allow it to carry mission-specific payloads without compromising flight duration, a key requirement for modern reconnaissance operations. What is the Blue UAS program? Launched by the Defense Innovation Unit, DIU, in partnership with the DoD, the Blue UAS program was established to create a vetted, secure list of drones that meet the federal government's cybersecurity and operational standards. It serves as a countermeasure to concerns over data security and the potential for foreign surveillance associated with drones manufactured in adversarial nations. Inclusion in the Blue UAS list is not merely a rubber stamp. It reflects a months-long vetting process, including penetration testing, data handling evaluations, software integrity reviews, and operational field testing. Only a handful of drones make the list each year, which makes the K-1000 ULE's inclusion a notable achievement for its manufacturer and a potential game-changer for public and defense sector drone use. Strategic implications. With the federal government increasing restrictions on Chinese-made drones and preparing new procurement guidelines that prioritize domestic and allied technology, the K-1000 ULE is positioned to fill key capability gaps in long-range aerial surveillance. Its endurance and security features make it especially appealing for border patrol, military ISR intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance missions, and communication support during disaster relief or tactical operations. Analysts believe that this platform may also find a role in maritime domain awareness missions, especially in the Indo-Pacific, where persistent coverage over wide ocean areas is a growing operational demand. In addition, the drone's modularity makes it adaptable for civil applications, such as wildfire monitoring, pipeline inspection, and environmental surveys. Looking ahead, with its blue UAS status secured, the K-1000 ULE is already being evaluated for integration into multiple government programs, and early procurement contracts are reportedly under negotiation. The drone's success not only strengthens the domestic UAS ecosystem, but also reinforces the Pentagon's push to build a secure and resilient supply chain, one free from foreign influence or compromise. As the U.S. drone market continues to mature, the K-1000 ULE stands as an example of how homegrown innovation, coupled with security-conscious policy, can help maintain American leadership in the increasingly crowded and contested skies. 6. Amprius boosts battery production to meet drone demand. As drone usage in both military and commercial sectors accelerates across the United States, so too does the demand for more powerful, longer-lasting, and safer battery technologies. In response to this surging market need, Amprius Technologies, a leading innovator in advanced lithium-ion battery systems, has significantly ramped up its U.S. production capacity, an initiative that aligns with federal efforts to secure domestic supply chains and reduce reliance on foreign-made energy components. The centerpiece of Amprius' recent expansion is its new line of SiCore, silicon core, lithium-ion batteries, which are specifically engineered to meet the energy requirements of modern drone systems. These batteries promise not only improved flight times and faster charging cycles, but also enhanced energy density and thermal stability, key performance metrics that are increasingly critical for unmanned aerial systems UAS operating in both combat and civilian environments. Silicon anode tech for high-endurance missions. At the core of Amprius's battery innovation is its proprietary silicon anode technology, which replaces traditional graphite in lithium-ion cells. This allows for a dramatic increase in energy storage capacity, up to 450 watt-hours per kilogram, compared to the average 250 to 300 watt-hours per kilogram found in conventional batteries. For drones, this translates directly into longer flight endurance, the ability to carry heavier payloads, and greater operational flexibility. These advancements are especially beneficial for long-range ISR missions, where drone flight duration can determine the effectiveness of a surveillance sweep or border patrol. In the commercial sector, the improved performance enables broader use cases such as package delivery, agricultural monitoring, and emergency response in remote areas. Scaling domestic manufacturing. To meet the growing demand, Amprius has invested heavily in expanding its domestic manufacturing footprint. In July 2025, the company inaugurated a new gigafactory in Colorado, designed to produce battery cells at industrial scale for defense contractors, drone startups, and aerospace firms. The facility is expected to create over 1,000 jobs and reduce the U.S. drone industry's dependence on Chinese and South Korean battery imports. This expansion comes at a time when national policymakers are emphasizing supply chain resiliency as a core tenet of technology policy. With the federal government increasingly restricting imports of critical drone components, Amprius's growth is viewed as a strategic asset for the U.S. defense industrial base. Support from federal and defense agencies. Amprius rise has not gone unnoticed by Washington. The company has received funding and support from various federal initiatives, including the Defense Innovation Unit, DIU, and the Department of Energy's Advanced Manufacturing Office. These investments are part of a broader federal effort to ensure the U.S. can meet the energy storage demands of next-generation defense platforms, from unmanned aerial vehicles to electric combat vehicles. Moreover, Amprius batteries are now being integrated into several drone systems that are undergoing Blue UAS certification. Their enhanced safety profile, offering reduced risk of thermal runaway and better performance in extreme temperatures, has also made them a top choice for military field operations. Outlook and industry impact. With increasing pressure to secure every link in the drone manufacturing chain, battery production is no longer a background issue. It is a strategic priority. Amprius is poised to become a cornerstone in that effort, ensuring that American drones are powered by American innovation. As drone fleets grow in size and sophistication, energy efficiency and reliability will become mission-critical factors. Amprius's new Sycor battery line offers a timely solution, one that strengthens both U.S. drone capabilities and national resilience in a rapidly evolving technological landscape. 7. State and industry pushback on federal drone import policies. As the federal government moves forward with sweeping restrictions on Chinese-made drones and increased regulation of foreign technology imports, not all stakeholders are on board. Across the country, state governments, local agencies, industry groups, and small businesses are pushing back, arguing that these policies, while rooted in national security concerns, are already causing disruption, confusion, and unintended economic fallout. The debate reflects a broader tension between Washington's efforts to protect critical infrastructure and supply chains from foreign influence, and the practical needs of public and private sector organizations that rely heavily on affordable, high-performing drones, many of which are manufactured in China. States speak out. Operational impact on public services. Several state and local governments have voiced strong opposition to the sudden curbs on foreign-made drones, particularly DJI models, which are widely used in law enforcement, firefighting, disaster response, and infrastructure inspection. These drones are praised for their affordability, ease of use, and advanced camera and sensor capabilities. Emergency services departments from California to Florida report that replacing entire drone fleets with U.S.-approved alternatives would require significant new funding, something most agencies don't currently have. For instance, the Los Angeles Fire Department, which uses drones for wildfire mapping and structural collapse assessments, estimates that switching to domestic drones would increase costs by 200 to 300% without offering the same capabilities. Some states are considering workarounds or legal challenges, arguing that federally imposed bans on procurement overstep local authority. Others are lobbying Congress for waivers or transition periods to phase in new drone systems over several years, rather than implementing an immediate replacement mandate. Private industry, cost, competition, and market access. Small and mid-sized businesses across the construction, agriculture, real estate, and film industries are also raising concerns. For many, Chinese drones have made drone technology accessible and commercially viable. U.S.-made alternatives, while growing in quality, often come with higher price tags and lower availability due to production bottlenecks or limited distribution channels. In sectors like precision agriculture, drones are essential for crop monitoring, irrigation planning, and pesticide optimization. Farmers worry that banning low-cost drones could reduce productivity and hurt already thin profit margins. Similar concerns are echoed by engineering firms and independent contractors who use drones for land surveying and environmental compliance reporting. Trade associations representing these industries are now pressuring the Biden administration to delay the implementation of the final import rules expected this month. Some are even requesting federal subsidies or tax credits to help offset the cost of transitioning to approved U.S.-made drone platforms. Lobbying and legal action. The growing backlash has sparked a flurry of lobbying activity in Washington. Tech policy groups, drone manufacturers, and bipartisan state coalitions are organizing meetings with lawmakers to advocate for more flexible compliance models and balanced policy enforcement. At least two lawsuits are reportedly in preparation, challenging the legal basis of federal procurement bans on the grounds of economic discrimination and lack of due process. Federal response, national security above all. Despite the pushback, federal agencies remain firm in their stance. Officials from the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense, and the White House have reiterated that protecting the nation's digital and physical infrastructure from foreign surveillance is non-negotiable. They argue that while short-term disruption is inevitable, long-term resilience and security justify the policy. Still, the administration is said to be considering grace periods, procurement incentives, and expanded support for domestic drone providers to help mitigate the transition, indicating that while the direction won't change, the implementation may become more adaptive in the months ahead. 8. Competition from Israel and China spurs policy changes. As the global drone market becomes increasingly competitive, the United States finds itself at a critical crossroads, caught between tightening export controls and losing strategic ground to fast-moving rivals like China and Israel. These two nations have rapidly become dominant players in the international drone arms race, offering countries across Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America advanced, affordable, unmanned systems with few strings attached. In response, the U.S. government is now taking aggressive policy steps to reclaim leadership in this vital technology space. China and Israel, fast movers in the drone export market. China, in particular, has capitalized on American hesitancy and regulatory constraints. Over the past decade, companies like China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation, CASC, and AVIC have exported armed drones such as the CH-4, CH-5, and Wingman series to dozens of countries, including Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Pakistan, and the United Arab Emirates. These drones offer similar capabilities to U.S. platforms like the MQ-9 Reaper, surveillance, precision strike, and long-range endurance, but at significantly lower cost and with fewer export restrictions. Israel, too, has become a major player in both military and civilian drone exports. Its flagship companies, including Elbit Systems, IAI, and Aeronautics, are producing high-performance UAVs tailored for reconnaissance, border patrol, and precision targeting. Israeli drones are known for their advanced sensor payloads and combat-proven reliability. The country's close relationships with several U.S. allies have enabled Israeli systems to become deeply integrated into regional defense ecosystems. U.S. response policy realignment and export expansion. To address this competitive pressure, the U.S. has begun to re-examine its own drone export policies, many of which were previously shaped by legacy arms control frameworks, like the Missile Technology Control Regime, MTCR. Recent reinterpretations of MTCR guidelines, as discussed in Section 3, have made it easier for U.S. companies to sell armed drones to trusted allies, a move that defense contractors and foreign policy strategists have long advocated for. Beyond treaty reinterpretation, the Biden administration is also working with Congress to streamline the export approval process for drone technologies. This includes fast-tracking approvals for NATO allies and Indo-Pacific partners, such as Japan, Australia, and India, where drone interoperability is viewed as a cornerstone of collective regional security. Additionally, the U.S. has launched public-private partnerships aimed at scaling production and ensuring that domestically manufactured drones can meet the demand created by this new export openness. Major defense firms such as General Atomics and Northrop Grumman are now actively pursuing drone contracts in markets once dominated by Chinese and Israeli suppliers. Strategic stakes, influence, and interoperability. Exporting drones isn't just about economic gain, it's also a matter of global influence. Nations that adopt U.S.-made drones tend to adopt American command and control standards, communication systems, and operational doctrines. This builds long-term interoperability between the U.S. military and partner forces, strengthening alliances and enabling joint operations. Moreover, by encouraging allies to buy U.S. drones rather than Chinese or Israeli systems, the U.S. limits the global spread of surveillance technologies that may be used with fewer human rights protections or under less transparent command structures. Challenges remain. Despite this policy pivot, challenges persist. U.S.-made drones are still more expensive than their Chinese counterparts, and many potential buyers are not part of existing U.S. defense partnerships. Export processes, while improving, can still be slow and politically entangled, especially in regions with unstable governments or human rights concerns. Nevertheless, the recent changes reflect a clear realization in Washington. If the U.S. wants to retain global leadership in drone technology, it must compete, not just restrict. The race is on, and the skies are increasingly crowded. 9. Chinese drone import rules to be finalized in September 2025. As part of a broader strategy to reduce reliance on foreign-made technology and address national security vulnerabilities, the U.S. government is set to finalize new rules restricting the import of Chinese-made drones by the end of September 2025. These long-anticipated regulations are expected to have wide-reaching implications for public agencies, private companies, and the global drone market at large. The new import rules, developed jointly by the Departments of Commerce, Defense, and Homeland Security, are aimed at curbing the use of drones and drone components originating from companies linked to the Chinese government or military. While specific language is still being finalized, early drafts of the rules suggest sweeping procurement bans, restrictions on resale and integration, and mandatory compliance audits for any organizations operating drones in critical infrastructure or sensitive data environments. What's included in the new rules? The upcoming regulations are expected to ban federal agencies from purchasing or operating drones manufactured by blacklisted Chinese companies, restrict private companies from using Chinese drones for operations involving critical infrastructure, for example, utilities, telecommunications, defense contracting, require data security certifications for all commercial drones used in regulated industries, prohibit the import of components, such as flight controllers, cameras, and telemetry modules, from companies associated with China's defense or surveillance apparatus. These rules will likely target well-known Chinese drone makers, such as DJI, Outal Robotics, and several lesser-known OEMs that manufacture components used by a wide range of drone brands. Transition periods and enforcement. Though aggressive in scope, the federal government is expected to introduce grace periods to allow organizations to transition away from non-compliant platforms. A draft transition framework includes 12 to 18 months for full compliance, depending on the agency or industry sector. During this period, approved alternatives, especially those listed under the Pentagon's Blue UAS program, will be promoted through federal contracts and funding incentives. Enforcement will fall under the jurisdiction of multiple agencies, including U.S. Customs and Border Protection (CBP) for import screening, and the Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) for airspace compliance and registration. International and commercial impacts. While the intent is to boost national security and foster domestic innovation, the rules are expected to cause short-term disruptions in sectors heavily reliant on Chinese drones, from real estate and farming to emergency services. Some commercial drone users may face increased costs, operational delays, or equipment shortages as they pivot to U.S.-approved alternatives. Moreover, the move could trigger retaliatory trade responses from China, potentially escalating tech-related tensions between the two countries. However, U.S. officials have signaled a willingness to absorb economic backlash in favor of long-term digital sovereignty and supply chain resilience. 10 U.S. companies scramble to meet drone contract demand. With federal restrictions on Chinese drone imports set to take effect and domestic demand soaring, U.S.-based drone companies are now racing to scale up production, workforce capacity, and R&D investments to meet a surge of both military and commercial contracts. The shift, sparked by policy changes, national security imperatives, and growing global drone demand, has turned the U.S. drone manufacturing sector into a hotbed of activity and opportunity. From defense giants to nimble tech startups, American drone makers are responding to an unprecedented wave of interest and procurement pressure. Government agencies, private contractors, law enforcement, and logistics firms are all in the market for secure, high-performance drones. creating bottlenecks, backlogs, and fierce competition for production space, skilled labor, and components. Defense contractors take the lead. Major players like General Atomics, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and Lockheed Martin have ramped up efforts to fulfill a growing list of U.S. military drone contracts. These contracts focus not only on traditional surveillance and reconnaissance UAVs, but also on cutting-edge technologies like swarm drones, autonomous strike platforms, and carrier-based loyal wingman systems, as discussed in Section 2. For example, General Atomics recently announced a $1.2 billion expansion of its MQ-9 Reaper production line, responding to new contracts from both the U.S. Air Force and foreign allies following recent export policy changes. Northrop Grumman is investing heavily in AI-enhanced drone navigation and has begun testing autonomous refueling and mid-air mission handoffs, features expected to be critical in future warfare scenarios. Meanwhile, the Navy is collaborating with private firms to accelerate delivery of long-endurance, ship-compatible UAVs for ocean surveillance and tactical deployment in the Indo-Pacific theater. Commercial drone companies step up. On the commercial side, U.S.-based drone manufacturers like Skydio, Teal Drones, AeroVironment, and Inspired Flight Technologies are working overtime to address the vacuum left by the impending exit of Chinese-made drones. These companies have seen explosive growth in federal, state, and local contracts, especially from public safety agencies, infrastructure inspectors, and utility providers transitioning away from DJI systems. Skydio, for instance, recently secured a $400 million contract with the Department of Homeland Security to supply autonomous drones for border monitoring, search and rescue, and disaster assessment. AeroVironment's fixed-wing drones are being integrated into agriculture and energy sector operations, while Inspired Flight is expanding its industrial drone offerings for mapping, surveying, and package delivery. Growing pains, supply chain, and workforce challenges. Despite strong demand and policy support, U.S. drone companies face growing pains. A major concern is the availability of skilled labor, particularly engineers, avionics specialists, and AI developers. Several firms have partnered with technical colleges and veteran transition programs to bolster recruitment and training pipelines. Supply chain constraints, especially in semiconductors, sensors, and high-performance materials, continue to delay production timelines. Although the U.S. is making headway in domesticizing parts of the drone supply chain, as noted in Section 6 with Amprius battery production, many drone components still depend on international vendors, requiring careful vetting and alternative sourcing strategies. Another challenge is scaling up manufacturing without compromising quality, cybersecurity, or compliance with Pentagon standards. To that end, companies are investing in automation, digital twin technology, and quality control systems to maintain output and reliability. Federal support and investment. Recognizing the urgency, the U.S. government has provided robust support to boost domestic drone production. Through programs such as the Defense Production Act, the Blue UAS Initiative, and Small Business Innovation Research (SBIR) grants, federal agencies are injecting funding and resources into promising drone firms to expedite development and deployment. In some cases, agencies are offering multi-year procurement contracts, allowing manufacturers to plan long-term production cycles, hire more staff, and invest in R&D with greater confidence. These moves are intended to not only meet today's demand, but to position U.S. drone manufacturers as global leaders for years to come. Looking ahead, as Chinese drone import bans take effect and foreign competitors continue to expand their influence, the U.S. drone industry finds itself in a pivotal moment. While the current scramble reflects growing pains and supply constraints, it also signals a historic opportunity for American drone companies to solidify their place at the center of global unmanned aviation. The question now isn't whether the U.S. can compete, it's whether it can scale fast enough to meet both domestic security needs and the expectations of an increasingly drone-reliant world. As of September 2025, the United States stands at a pivotal inflection point in the evolution of its drone strategy, one defined not only by innovation, but also by urgency. Drones are no longer simply tools of the future. They are integral to the nation's defense, economic resilience, infrastructure, and global influence. The headlines we've explored in this article reflect a wider transformation taking place across U.S. industry, government, and international policy. From restricting imports of Chinese drones to accelerating the development of next-generation military systems like the loyal Wingman, the U.S. is actively reasserting control over a technological domain it helped pioneer. The reclassification of drones under long-standing arms control treaties, the expansion of the Pentagon's Blue UAS program, and the federal government's firm stance on digital sovereignty all speak to a coordinated, multi-agency effort to secure America's position in the skies, literally and geopolitically. Yet these actions are not without their challenges. State and local agencies face budget constraints as they transition to compliant systems. Private businesses dependent on Chinese technology are scrambling for affordable alternatives, and domestic drone manufacturers are racing against time to scale operations, fill contracts, and build out secure, reliable supply chains. The growing pains are real, but they are also part of the price of strategic autonomy. Importantly, the U.S. is not operating in a vacuum. The competition is fierce, with China and Israel aggressively expanding their global footprint in drone sales and technology partnerships. This has forced U.S. policymakers to not only restrict and regulate, but also compete and invest, streamlining export approvals, funding domestic innovation, and supporting public-private partnerships to accelerate development cycles. Meanwhile, energy storage companies like Amprius and defense manufacturers like General Atomics, Skydio, and AeroVironment are answering the call, pushing forward with advancements in AI, battery endurance, autonomy, and secure communications. These innovations are not just responses to federal mandates. They are shaping the next frontier of unmanned systems, both in the battlefield and across the economy. Ultimately, the American drone landscape is becoming a reflection of broader national priorities: security, sovereignty, innovation, and strategic leadership. Whether these efforts will be enough to outpace international competitors and reshape the global drone narrative remains to be seen. But what is clear today is that the skies are becoming more contested, and the United States intends to lead.